Martin, this is J.I. Allison.
I'm Sonny Curtis.
Glenn D. Harden.
And Joe B. Mauldin.
We all grew up around Lubbock, Texas back in the 40s and 50s and listened to the same kind of music. And we all had musical instruments. I guess that started because there weren't near as many musical instruments around those days as there were now. And so all the musicians around Lubbock knew each other, and we just got interested in the same thing. We started out playing country music, and then got into listening to Fat Stone on Little Richard and Chuck Berry, and then Elvis, and we all just sort of fell into a deal. And we cut some records with Buddy in 1956 for Decca Records that weren't very successful, and then we formed the Crickets in late 1956 and recorded That'll Be the Day, and we've been doing that sort of thing ever since. Some of the guys have come and gone, and they're all back now.
The rest is musical history. And J.I., I mean, your drumming is legendary and very much the sound of the Crickets, isn't it? Very distinctive.
Well, that's a nice compliment, Martin. I appreciate it. Buddy and I played quite a few dances around Lubbock in different jobs where there was only two of us, so I think that's sort of how the drum and guitar sound developed, because we had to play all we could to fill up the empty space for the lack of musicians.
You wrote your own music as well?
That's right, because there weren't any songwriters around Lubbock, so if we were going to have anything new, we had to do it ourselves. Sonny Curtis wrote one of the songs that Buddy recorded in the first sessions called Rock Around with Ollie V, which was one of the very first rock and roll songs, the very first rock and roll song to have a Fender Stratocaster played on it.
J.I., do you remember writing songs like That'll Be the Day, Peggy Sue, More Than I Can Say, of course, which has been a hit for two or three people since the early days, isn't it? Do you remember how you wrote the songs?
Well, That'll Be the Day, Buddy and I we had the instruments set at my folks' house, and we were actually practicing probably, trying to learn a new Little Richard song or something like that, and Buddy said, why don't we write a song? And I said, well, that'll be the day. That was the first song I'd ever written and finished, I think, and because we'd seen a John Wayne movie called The Searchers, and John Wayne said That'll Be the Day 5 or 6 times in it, and we were sort of copying John Wayne when I said That'll Be the Day. Anyway, Buddy said that might be a good idea for a song, so he started had a riff going, and we put some words with it. It probably didn't take 30 minutes. I wish we could write one that quick these days. And More Than I Can Say, we were going to New York to do an album called In Style with the Crickets. Sonny had a guitar, and he and I started writing the songs, and Joe B was tied up driving, so he missed out on it. But we recorded it on that album, and I think it came out as a single. And then Bobby V recorded it in 1960, and it was fairly successul. Somebody told us the story. Leo Sayer was watching TV, and they were advertising the Bobby V Hits album, and he said, I think I'll record that, which was a good stroke of luck for us, because that record was so well all over the world. And so we're big fans of Leo Sayer.